All right, welcome guys to another episode of Dive into Real Estate Investing for Newbies podcast. I have another special guest, Scott uh, Jelinek.
Correct.
Jelinek. Yes, Scott is a husband, father, entrepreneur, full-time real estate investor. He has been investing in real estate since 1994. He has completed over 700 deals, owns over 100 rentals, and he formed the Master Investor Academy so that people could learn real estate investing locally from local investors doing local deals. He also has a podcast. It's called The Ugly Truth, right? Is that
Yep.
Yeah, The Ugly Truth about real estate. So welcome to the podcast, Scott. Thanks for taking out your time to be on
Thanks
the
for
show
having me,
today.
Cecil. I was looking forward to this.
Yeah, yeah. So Scott, tell us about your journey, how you started. I mean, you've been in this for a minute now, so I'm sure you have a lot of wisdom, a lot of wins, losses.
A lot of hard
Yeah,
lessons.
yeah, yeah.
So I'll tell you how I got started, and I'm going to give you the condensed version because we only have 6 hours on here. But that was a joke.
I know.
So I started. I started in 1994. I bought my first house. I was mowing lawns back then, and only older people remember this, but they used to have a thing called non-qualifying assumptions. They did away with them in '87 for FHA and '89 for VA. But what it meant was anybody can take over a mortgage, much like Sub 2 now, but with the mortgage company's blessing. And so I bought one. My very first one was $5,000 down and $675 a month, and I moved into it. And I had no ambitions of real estate. My plan was just to buy a house to live in. Well, about 3 weeks after I bought it, another one on the block came up for sale, and a sign was out front that said 2,000 down, take over payments. And so I felt like I got ripped off. And even this has no knowledge of real estate, value, equity, anything, just the price down in a month. And I felt like I got ripped off. So in my genius brain, I decided to buy that one also. And I said, oh, well, then it's cost averaging to 3,500 down each. And so I did. And I put a tenant in it, paying $675 a month. The payment was right at $675 a month, which is a stupid move, but I didn't know that at the time. And that's kind of how I came up with my plan, which I always called my McDonald's plan. But my plan, it had nothing to do with McDonald's, mind you. I never worked there. But I used to tell people, I said, I can buy $1 million worth of these and go work at McDonald's for 30 years and I'll be a millionaire. That was my simple plan. And so I started buying everything I could possibly buy. I'm about to say Sub 2, but they weren't Sub 2s back then. They were non-qualifying assumptions. Anyway, so I got to about 20 properties until 2001. And in 2001, I contracted a property that was a regular cash deal because I was going to get into rehabbing. And I was taking all the courses, reading all the stuff. And everybody was telling me, just find a deal and the money will follow, right? And so I found a deal. And the money didn't follow. And I went everywhere and I went to all these meetings. I tried to solicit hard money, private money, raise money, and I was unsuccessful. So now I'm trying to figure out how to get out of the contract because this was a contract through an agent. And one of the lenders called me back and he told me, and I was buying this property, mind you, for $22,000. And I was trying to borrow 32. It needed 10 grand worth of work. One of the lenders called me back and he said, I saw it was him calling and I was excited thinking he changed his mind. And he said, no, I won't loan you the 32,000. But I'll buy it from you for 32,000. And I kind of laughed and I was like, yeah, sorry, I'd love to sell it to you, but I don't own it. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. We do this all the time. Just go talk with my lawyer. And so I went down and I'm a child myself. And I signed whatever they gave me. I had no idea what I was doing. And then I left. And basically in my head, I just got out of the contract. That's all I wanted. And I felt like I got out of the contract. Well, about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call that says, hey, Scott Jelinek, yeah. And they said, your check's ready for pickup. And I'm like, my check? I'm on my way, right? So I run down there and they hand me an envelope and I open it up. I couldn't even leave the office. I open up the envelope and it's a check for $10,000 and I'm beside myself. I've been in real estate now 5 years. I have 20 houses and I have never made $1. I'm feeding it every month. I'm feeding the beast, feeding my properties. Now here was a deal that went bad and I tried to get out of it and I accidentally wholesaled it without even knowing what wholesale was back then and got a check for $10,000. And it was ever since that day I said, well, I don't have to wait 30 years. I don't have to do the McDonald's plan. We can make money right now. And I've been full-time real estate investing ever since then. Never looked back.
Right. Wow, man. That's good starting off like that. Now going back, because it seemed like you had a extensive amount of business background, doing, I guess, when you were coming up, just me reading about you and stuff from different business that you started. So when you got into the real estate, Did you have any coaching or anything like that, or you just jumped?
Unfortunately not. And we didn't have YouTube and stuff back then either. So unfortunately I didn't. I did have some courses I went to. I got Russ Whitney's course. I had a Robert Allen's course. I went to the local seminars that came to town. But we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all this information that's around now. And business experience, I had a lot of businesses, but I had no proper experience or training. I was, just like I started in real estate, I was winging it. I was,
Right.
I was buying stuff and figuring it out as I went.
Yeah, yeah. So now to what you're doing, did you focus on a specific niche from the wholesaling, or you just stuck with wholesaling? Because I know you was talking about the what it was, the non-qualifying what subject to
Assumptions.
the
Yeah.
assumptions. Yeah. I wish they still had that today,
I
but
don't know why they don't. It only,
yeah,
it's so good for everybody involved. I don't know why they don't.
yeah.
But
It'll
we
work out for a
basically,
lot of
sub
people
two
too.
is almost the same thing, except without the bank's blessing.
Yeah,
So it's not much different, except that I liked the mortgage, the statement came in my name. Everything was in my name rather
right.
than the way sub twos work. But in the end, it's almost the same end result, but it was much more comfortable with a non-qualifying assumption. So yeah, I've settled on a couple of things. So I've rehabbed hundreds of houses. Since 2013, I stopped rehabbing. I had an epiphany. We can talk about that another time, but and I stopped rehabbing. I decided at that I was scaling a business back then. I realized in 2013 I did my first 30-day trip to Panama, and while I was there, I had a lot of time to think. And one of the things I realized was I work for my employees. They don't work for me. I was doing all this to keep everybody employed and to keep feeding the beast. When I had time to think, I was like, I can do a fraction of the deals I'm doing now by myself and actually make more money. And so when I came back, I revamped my whole business to go back to the way I started, being just me. And so I stopped rehabbing. I stopped rehabbing completely and started just wholesaling again and keeping properties. So I do a slow flip method. I don't know if you know about the slow flips. I do the slow flip method. I have 115 of them now, and I wholesale, and that's it. I don't rehab at all anymore.